This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the MSI GS66 Stealth. So this is the 2020 edition, kind of late 2020, of the slim and light 15-inch gaming laptop from MSI that we know and mostly love. And they've made some improvements here, particularly the aesthetics and the build quality. So it's what they call core black. Obviously, they're going after the Razer Blade 15 here with the look, and they've largely succeeded. It's more angular, it's their own look, but no more gold accents that kind of went tacky. The logo is black and etched on the lid instead of being highlighted, and it's more rigid too, because they try to make it as light as possible. There was some flex in the panels before, and that's gone. This thing is rigid and solid. Intel 10th generation CPUs inside, and NVIDIA RTX 2060 or 2070 Super Max Q or 2080 Super Max Q graphics inside. If you're thinking about the RTX 3000 series, my guess is not until next spring, spring of 2021, before we see those in laptops. We're going to look at this one now. But first, a shout out to our sponsor, Wondershare's PDF Element Pro. It's the best all-in-one converter for PDFs. It's the best way to create, convert, annotate, and sign PDFs. You have things like redactions and also the OCR feature, which is pretty nifty. We're going to take a look at that one in detail. With the OCR feature, you can edit and convert scanned PDFs, extract data from PDFs, or just the form fields, which is pretty darn useful. It's got batch OCR support, and it supports 20+ languages, and yes, it can convert from images and turn images into text. It can also easily convert to and from Word and maintain all formatting, and it supports many export types, not just PDF. So you can export as an image or HTML or EPUB. You can protect documents, sign documents, and even redact documents too. Be sure to use our link down in the description to save up to 50% off. Now back to our video. So another big change is inside. The motherboard is no longer inverted. What does that mean? If you want to access your 2 RAM slots, your 2 M.2 SSD slots, or remove the heat sinks and take out the fans because you want to repaste it, just unscrew the bottom cover and the world's your oyster. It's all available to you. So that's great because gaming laptops, enthusiasts often buy them who want to do those sorts of things, do the upgrades, do the repasting, Yes, thank you MSI for doing that. Keyboards also improved. They say it's 1.5 millimeters of key travel now. It doesn't feel that deep to me. It feels more like 1.3, but they say it's 1.5. But it's very tactile, especially compared to the last generation. Nice key return and spring. And it's a SteelSeries per key RGB backlit keyboard with the usual color programming, and you can do the wave and all sorts of other color effects, lighting effects if you want to do that. We have a glass Microsoft Precision trackpad on board, and it does actually click if you push it down. It's interesting. The only thing I can complain about is sometimes it doesn't register just taps. I don't know why that is, but sometimes I just have to click instead to get around that. But other than that, and that could be fixed maybe with some software, and that's good too. So this is a very thin and very light 15.6-inch powerful gaming laptop. Obviously, thermals are going to be an issue. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, let's talk about the displays. It may be a very classy and professional looking gaming laptop, but there's no 4K display option, which is almost shocking to me. I would have thought they might have done that for creators, but then MSI does have their Creator series of laptops, and for a whole bunch of mobile workstations and stuff for those of you who do that sort of stuff. So I guess that's why. So you have your choice of 3 different full HD matte IPS displays, just different refresh rates. 144 Hz on the very base model, then there's a 240 Hz, and then there's the trendy for this year 300 Hz refresh rate display, which is what we have. MSI has their True Color utility, which has improved over the years. It used to be almost an atrocity, but now it's actually pretty good. The default is the sRGB preset, which is the one that's color calibrated, and it's pretty accurate. So you've got your usual full sRGB coverage on that 300 Hz display. I expect the same is true of the other 2 as well. It's a very pleasing display, experientially speaking. It gets pretty bright. It's over 300 nits in brightness, which for a gaming laptop is pretty good. Very good contrast on it. So yeah, it's an enjoyable display, certainly. And if you're playing competitive online shooters where you really want those super high refresh rates, it's there for you. And in general, fast response times. Sweet. In terms of pricing, actually, for a premium gaming laptop, this one starts out at a pretty accessible $1,500. Again, I think they're going off of the competition with the Razer Blade 15 standard or base edition. So that one gets you an RTX 2060 full 2060, not Max Q, and a Core i7 6-core CPU. That's actually not bad for the price. And you can go all the way up to $3,000 if you want a Core i9 8-core and RTX 2080 Super Max Q graphics, 32 gigs of RAM, terabyte of storage, really nicely decked out. So given what you're getting, the price isn't bad. You've got killer Wi-Fi on board using actually an Intel card, so that's the Wi-Fi 6 card 1650, and you have killer E3100 Ethernet built in. You've also got Thunderbolt 3 on board, USB-A ports. The connectivity is pretty good on this given how compact it is. The stereo speakers, which are Dyne Audio branded hardware, they're 2-watt stereo speakers on board using the usual Nahimic audio software. I'll be honest, it sounds thin and tinny. Thank goodness that they always do good high-res audio output, and you've got headphone jack to count on for that. I have a Windows Hello IR camera, something you don't usually see on gaming laptops. I certainly do appreciate them. All right, let's talk about performance and thermals. After all, it's a gaming laptop. That's what you care about, even if you're going to be using this for pro apps work instead, like Adobe Premiere or some 3D rendering with Blender or you name it, right? So we have the usual MSI Cooler Boost Trinity, now Cooler Boost Trinity Plus. What that means is you have 3 fans inside. 2 for the GPU, 1 for the CPU, and we have 7 heat pipes. A couple of them are shared, some of them are independent at least. But the challenge here is that this is such a thin and light laptop. Now we have the 8-core i7 option, which is often a nice sweet spot, but I think 8 cores is really too much for these ultra thin and light laptops, thermally speaking. And we have the RTX 2070 Max Q Super Edition in ours. So thermals are what you would expect it to be, which is to say toasty and thermal throttling if you're going to play on Ultra 1080p in today's AAA titles. So testing out Battlefield 5 or Far Cry New Dawn or even Apex Legends, where the temperatures are a bit better there, you'll hit thermal throttling. Now, if you see the screenshot where I had the graph running in hardware info, it's not that it spends its entire time at 96 degrees centigrade, that CPU core, you know. A lot of the time we're actually in the 80s, which isn't that bad, but we have the spikes to the 90s, and then it's going to thermal throttle on you some. Now, definitely you probably want to try something like Throttle Stop or Intel XTU to do a core voltage offset on this. Interestingly, I ran Throttle Stop and I set that, but it didn't seem to show up and appear in hardware info that I had done that. So I'm not sure what's going on, if MSI is blocking undervolting on this one or if it's just a reporting error. But anyway, yeah, it's going to get toasty. The fans on this are physically not super huge. They have these nifty, they claim thinnest fans and all that sort of thing. You can see the graphic. They are still, relatively speaking, on the small side for fans because they pack 3 in there. So it has that kind of small fan sound, which is to say not really grating, but you can hear it resonating off the table a little bit. Neat party trick. You can look through the top and the grates above the keyboard area and see straight through the bottom if you hold it up in the air. But anyway, when it's running full board like gaming, like we were running it in the high performance mode for gaming, and it sounds like water boiling in the distance, like that shh kind of sound instead of a whoosh. But it's not grating, it's not whiny. I don't hear any coil whine on this. So it's definitely something that if you're going to be playing games on this in high settings and ultra settings, you're going to want to tune this thing and undervolt and maybe even consider a repaste. But given how small it is and thermally constrained as a result, I'm not even sure how much repasting is ever going to fix that. That's life with today's thin and light gaming laptops. By the way, if you're doing things like Adobe Premiere or, you know, more easygoing Blender renders, you're going to see lower temperatures on this versus playing Battlefield with DirectX 12 enabled. Though in our visuals, we're using DirectX 11, gets you better frame rates. Frame rates in games are excellent in this. So battery life, usually that's the, you know, we don't even want to talk about the gaming laptops. That is the sweet spot here. They went with a 99.99 watt-hour battery, which is the highest capacity battery you can have with and still be able to take it on an airplane. Cool that. Plus we have NVIDIA Optimus. Even better for those of you who hate Optimus in any possible drop in gaming performance. In Dragon Center, which is MSI's control panel software for the laptop, you can switch between Optimus mode and DGPU mode. It requires a reboot when you do that, but you have your choice. Anyway, NVIDIA Optimus helps. So obviously you're probably not gaming when you're using it unplugged. You're doing productivity work, streaming videos, whatever, all that stuff is that we all do. And battery life is pretty good. They claim up to 9 hours. Okay, that's optimistic. But still, with Optimus enabled, mostly using Intel integrated graphics, I was managing about 6 to 7 hours. For something this powerful, that's great. And for something this thin and light, the idea is probably you do want to take it around everywhere with you, and that's good. Got 2 chargers. It depends on which model laptop you get. If you get the super powerful i9 with the 2080, then you're going to get a 240 watt adapter. If you go for a lower spec model, you're going to get a 180 watt adapter. All right, here's the underside. Obviously, we have pretty good height rubber strips here to help a little air get in here. Nice large air intake area over the CPU and GPU, so that's where that should be. To take off the metal bottom cover, you unscrew the Phillips head screws. They're all the same size except for this one right here, which is a little bit shorter, so be mindful when you put it back together. And one is hidden under MSI's usual factory seal button, which at least in the US does not void your warranty to go inside, and it's supposed to be there so you know nobody messed with it before you got it. All right, there's our nice cover, underside of nice cover. And here are our internals, and most giant battery over here. That's one of the selling points of the laptop, that it has such a big battery. And here are our drivers for our speakers. And underneath these 2 covers right here, heat shield covers, we have our 2 RAM slots, DDR4 2666 megahertz RAM. Ours happens to have 32 gigs. So obviously you can upgrade that yourself. 64 gigs would currently be the maximum. And under this cover right here is our M.2 NVMe SSD, so you could pull that out and upgrade it yourself. This is a Western Digital 512 gig that we have in ours, and the speeds are actually pretty good on benchmarks. But wait, there's more. There's a second M.2 slot for a PCIe SSD, so in case you want to increase your storage, nice way to be able to do that. There's a socketed killer 1650 Wi-Fi 6 card, which is actually Intel hardware. Good card, that. And we have, yay, the motherboard, obviously, by the way, is facing upward. Great improvement from MSI here. So here are our fans for the GPU and the CPU, and the heat sinks right here. So if you want to repaste this, obviously, it's all accessible now without taking out the motherboard. Yay. So that's their Cooler Boost Trinity Plus system here. We got 3 fans instead of the usual 2. Is that more effective than 2 fans? Well, hard to say, but given the limited amount of space in a 15.6-inch laptop, it probably is a bit more effective than one not that huge fan on this side. So that's the MSI GS66 Stealth, and they have finally achieved that. I used to make fun of MSI and their challenge the aesthetics. This is a good-looking, premium-looking machine, and it's even sweeter that it starts at $1,500. It's got a rigid build, it's very good-looking, and the specs on this are actually very good relative to the price. They're quite fair. Thermals will always be a problem whenever you pick a 15.6-inch thinnest and lightest of gaming laptops, so we can't say they're doing things a whole lot differently than other manufacturers. The limitation is Intel's toasty CPUs right now. Pretty good keyboard on this, per key RGB, good connectivity, Thunderbolt 3, yeah, it checks a lot of boxes. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos and hit the notification bell so you know about them.